Hi, this is John Waco with FirstTimeHomeBuyerSchool.com, and I got this podcast where we talk to real people about buying their first home, so you don't have to hear the salesy talk from real estate agents or mortgage loan officers. And the podcast is called First Home Stories. And today I've got a very busy mother, Jenn Murphy, to talk to, my nephew's wife, and they just bought a house in Sacramento, and I heard it was a real adventure. Jenn, is that maybe you could start talking
Yeah.
about that? Well,
Hi. Oh,
thanks so
it was
much.
really fun, actually.
Oh, good. Well, why don't you
Uh,
start by just do the lay of the land? So, what were you in your
okay.
life? Where were you? And just the groundwork and why you decided to finally get around to buying a home.
Okay. Well, okay. First, I should say I have always dreamed of buying a home. Like I'm a big fan of house hunters and all the house flipping shows. And my background before I started having babies and I worked for an architecture firm, and so
Ah,
I was just always dreaming about, when will I get a home and making it my own and all that fun stuff. And so then my husband and we lived in Santa Barbara for about 9 years, and that's where we met. And so the whole time we were dating, we were just saving money. And I like to save money, but I always was thinking this money is going to be for a house one day. So we're just saving, saving, saving. And then we started having kids, and Santa Barbara is quite expensive. And after we had our first daughter, we thought, we started thinking really seriously about moving. And Ben's family, his mom and dad, and a couple of his brothers live up in the Sacramento area in El Dorado Hills and Folsom and Roseville. And so we would come up and visit for holidays. And whenever we're up here, we're like, oh my gosh, it's so nice up here. Like all these, there's so many developments going up, and they just look so new and like really beautiful. Even though they were kind of track developments, like I didn't care. I just loved that neighborhood feeling that was all manicured. And Santa Barbara is much more of an organic sort of, I mean, unless you're Oprah or a multimillionaire, the neighborhoods are kind of rough around the edges, I'd say. And so I would always look at the neighborhoods up in this area and think, oh my gosh, these are so cute. And so, okay, so sorry if I'm
no, this is
giving too
great.
much of a
I'm just
backstory.
I'm enjoying
Okay.
listening to it.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, so we had our first daughter, Everly, and I was kind of burnt out on work, and I really, really, really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom when my babies were young, and Ben knew that. Like, we used to talk about that when we were dating. Like, that was a big dream of mine. So while I was on maternity leave, started like really grinding on like trying to find a good job for him up in this area. And I was working with his mom, and his mom, Cease, and I were the ones that were basically filling out all of these job applications because Ben had a full-time job at the time anyway. So we were applying for all these jobs, and then Cease knew someone and was able to get Ben an interview for this research project job. And it all happened, and it was very like up in the air for a while. Anyway, so we ended up making the move up here, and this was 3 years ago. We lived in
Hmm.
Roseville in an apartment when we first got here, and we're still saving. And then I found that I was pregnant with our second daughter, and our apartment was on the third floor with too many stairs. So we got another rental, and we were thinking, oh, should we buy now? But it still just felt like we weren't quite at the mark we needed to be at to put a down payment that would allow us to have like a house payment that wasn't huge. And so I'm a real planner, and so we just decided to hold off a little bit longer. I feel like I've always been ready, aside from wanting to save, like I've always dreamed of doing the house hunt. So we just jumped in, started doing it. A girlfriend of mine who's a realtor in Santa Barbara connected me with a realtor that she found in her like network of, it wasn't someone she knew personally, but it was someone that did the same sort of, I guess, coaching strategies that
Hmm.
she was learning about. And so we started off working with that realtor. We went to look at one house, but then there's also a realtor that a lot of Ben's family has used in this area. And so we were a little bit torn, like, who should we work with? And we ultimately decided to make a switch after looking at one home with this first gal and started working with Stephanie Noble and Bobby Yost, their team in this area. And they work very closely with Ben's brother flipping. They find him properties when he flips houses.
When Nathan was
So
flipping, he was working with this guy. Okay.
yeah,
So
and
I assume you were looking on Zillow, et cetera, for a long time before that, or did you just jump in and start looking at homes in person?
you know what? I've always been looking on Zillow, so it wasn't even that much. I just started
There
looking a
was
little
no change.
closer. Yeah, I always just kind of look and see what's out there. And, every couple months, Ben and I would get a wild hair and be like, oh, look at this house, just online. But we hadn't, it's a whole different shift, I think, when you're actually ready to like start talking with someone about spending all your money.
Right.
So that was new. So once I guess I should backtrack a little. So the first major step we did was went and talked to a lending officer person, and he like looked at our financials and like told us, how much do you want to spend, and gave us like a realistic picture, pulled our credit scores and did all that fun stuff, and basically gave us a picture of like, okay, this is probably how much you want to spend depending if you're going to put this much down. And
And
so
where'd you find this
then
loan officer? He was just preferred by.
he worked actually so I jumped ahead. He worked with the first agent that
Yes,
we
oh,
were
gotcha.
working with.
Uh-huh.
But so we had an idea, of how much we could spend, so we knew what properties, ranges we should be looking at, like how expensive houses we should be looking at. So also a big factor was we didn't mind putting some work into the house. But my thing is, with two little girls, I didn't want to move in and fix the stuff. If we were going to spend a large chunk of money doing some renovations, it needed to happen before we moved in. So
Absolutely.
that would have just had to been factored into the price. Like if we found a house we liked and it needed $40,000 worth of work, we would have known, okay, it needs to be, we can only look at houses that cost, X amount, and we need to save some also to pay our rent so that we can live in our rental until the work's done. And
right.
so
That's
we're
really
kind of
great
running the
planning, because you were figuring, okay, we would have to pay, would double, would have the house payment and the rent for so much amount of time while we're doing the improvements before we move in. You're really thinking ahead.
Yeah. I was always running the numbers and thinking in a way like, because we're pretty much spending everything that we've I gave us a little cushion, like 20,000, that I was just like, we're going to keep this in the bank. But everything else I had factored in, and so if we're going to do big renovations, the house needs to cost less, obviously. So we were careful at what we were looking at. I did not want to live in a construction zone. And Ben's brother is a house flipper. That's a passion of his. And so he's got the crews, and I have the background working in architecture. Like I've run jobs before. I felt very capable of being able to manage a project and in a timely manner, as fast as possible to get work done. And I feel like I had all the subs I would need, at my fingertips already to just hire and get the work done. So we started looking at houses, and then we switched real estate agents, and then we actually found a house that we put an offer in. It was probably, I would say maybe, I'm trying to think back. I don't even remember. We hadn't looked at too many houses, maybe like 5 or 6, and we found this one in this area. It was in Cameron Park, which is a little bit away from, it's a little bit of older neighborhood, a little bit in the country, but there's still like developments out there, whereas Folsom is highly developed with like Targets and, Costco and all that stuff. This was like up the freeway, just a little bit away from that, but still close to everything. Prices are a little better in that area. And so we actually found this house that we liked. It needed quite a bit of work. Like it needed like new floors, eventually we would want to do a new kitchen. All the decks, there were a couple decks on the house. They were all really badly dry rotted. So, and they were big decks, like multi-layer decks, multi-level. And so we really needed to like get those replaced right away if we were going to do this house. Also, it had a pool in the backyard, which many properties up here have pools, but I didn't want a pool because there's so many pools at we have access to, like our gym has a pool. So many people have pools, like you always know someone with one. And I grew up with one, and they're a lot of work, and I just didn't want to worry about my girls like being in the backyard, and I just didn't want that layer of hazard. So this one had a pool, and it was a really ugly pool too. So we would have had to take the pool out. It was an above ground. So this house, we liked it a lot. I liked the open floor plan. It had so many things, but it needed quite a bit of work. And so we put an offer in. We put in a low offer. And it turned out that this home was owned by like an older couple that the wife was a part-time real estate agent. And they were a little bit out of touch with like how much work it needed.
Oh.
I think, it becomes personal to people
Yeah,
sometimes.
oh my gosh.
Like,
right. It becomes like their self-worth becomes tied up with the house somehow.
Mm-hmm. And the house, like all the bathrooms needed to be redone, like gutted, really bad, really dated, and just not even working that. They worked, but just like green toilets and
nice.
Just like original stuff. And I think the house at least 3 years old. So they I guess were insulted by our first offer.
Oh.
I think we came. They were just like. They came down 5,000. We had offered, I can't even remember. I think we offered like 30,000 under the asking price.
Right.
And they only came down 5. Or no, maybe they only came down 1. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly. But
that's cool. We get the idea that you're still way far apart.
Yeah, and so I think we counter offered one more time and came up a little bit, and they didn't counteroffer again. So we were like, okay, I guess it's done. But the house continued to sit on the market for a long time.
Oh,
for
how long?
It had already been on the market like 60 days when we offered, and then it continued to sit on the market like another 30 days. We continued looking at properties and just weren't seeing what we wanted. I knew for me what I really wanted was high ceilings. I wanted an open feel. I really liked the kitchen being open to the living spaces. And I didn't mind if it was an upstairs, downstairs. And, a lot of people want one story out here for some reason. But I am from New England, and all the houses are upstairs, downstairs, usually 3 levels with a basement. So I like that. That kind of reminds me of like my childhood. And
is this house you end up with? Is it 2 stories?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. After 30 days of it still just sitting on the market, obviously the house was overpriced, and so we decided to go in and offer again.
30 days later. Cool.
I think it actually went off into escrow, and then it fell through, and then that's when our real estate agent said, and not with us, someone else had offered on it, and it fell through. That's when we decided to put in one more offer, but it wasn't accepted. I guess we were just too far apart. You know what? They came back, we came back and forth, and the money just kept getting tighter and tighter because like I knew how much work it needed, and we kept compromising and coming up a little, and I think we were within $5,000, and
Really?
They were not willing to budge.
What?
And then at that point we were just like, whatever, like it's not meant to be. It was becoming too much of like a negative feeling about the house, and we both were just like, you know what, we want it, but like we need to make it a certain way, and we're getting to the point where we're not going to be able to do that. So
yeah, I can see that. You feel like you're getting overstretched anyway. You got to make sure you get a good price, a decent anyway, a fair price.
Yeah, and because we hadn't even gone through inspections or anything, and we were concerned that perhaps there was other things that were going to need attention, like who knows if there's like tree roots in the pipes or something like that that
that could have been
you don't even see.
Yeah, and that could have been why it fell out of escrow the first time, is during the inspections those buyers found a deal killer that knocked it out.
Yeah, and I do remember that the house had a very old looking roof. It had wood shingle, wood exterior, which on parts of it, or the roof, and out here it gets so hot in the summer, and then it rains a lot in the spring, and then it's super hot again, and so that just is so bad for wood. And so any house that has like the wood on the outside that hasn't been redone around here, because we looked at a lot of houses that had this problem, the dry rot is just very evident. So anyway, so we just ended up deciding, maybe this one's not for us. And then right after that, we actually found one other one in that same neighborhood that looked really nice and promising. Someone had flipped it. I liked it. We went and checked it. I mean, at this point, I felt like we were starting to compromise more on things that I didn't necessarily want to compromise on, but it was just like, as the house hunt goes on, you start to think like, oh, that backyard's okay. I found myself bending more easily. When we first started, I was like, I want a big backyard for the kids. I want, the high ceilings. I want them to have, we needed 4 bedrooms. I want Ben to be able to have his own, office room that can be just his space, that we can shut the door and, that's his room. And we wanted a 3-car garage so that we could have a gym on one side and my car and have it all organized. And I don't know, that we wanted a nice neighborhood. And so we were finding houses that would just be missing, like something kind of major.
Right.
And then I found myself being like, well, maybe we can live with it. And I don't know. So
That's funny you say that, because the interview I just did last time, the previous podcast was with Bobby Scopa, and she's bought like 12 houses in her life, and she said buying a house is just a series of compromises. So just what you are going through with your first house is learning, what are you going to trade off? It's a bunch of trade-offs, compromises.
Yeah. So I from watching the shows, on TV that I'm so into, it's like I wanted to walk in and just fall in love with it. But so we found this one house that I liked, and it was in that same neighborhood from that one that we had offered on, and it was at the end of a cul-de-sac. But then I went to look at it, and then Ben went after work and met our realtor again to look at it. And while he was there, this dog came out of the neighbor's house and ran down and almost attacked them. And we were like, oh my gosh, and they were like, whose dog is this? Yelling, and nobody came out, and they ended up having to get in their cars and leave. And that ruined that house for us, because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to move in, with 2 babies and have a rabid dog running around the neighborhood. So it's funny, the things that come up, and it was almost a blessing that had come up, that we had discovered that before offering on the house, because it's sort of important. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So then Ben was getting a little bit weary of the house hunting, and we were even thinking of putting it on hold because the holidays were coming up. It was October, like almost Halloween. And I had seen this one house on the app I was using was, I think, realtor.com. That was my favorite app. And so I had seen this one house come up, and it was over our price range, and it was over what I thought our max would be by like 25,000. And so I was like, I'm not even going to look at it. Like, what's the point? Because we can't afford it. So then it sat on the market for I think it was on for like 3 weeks. And then it seemed like not that much new stuff was coming up because the holidays were coming up. And so I said to my realtor, why don't we go just check this one out? And so he met me over here. I couldn't believe it. When we drove into the neighborhood, it was the sweetest neighborhood I've ever seen. It really, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this existed out here, because it's kind of out in the country. It's on the edge of El Dorado Hills, which is considered more of a desirable town versus Cameron Park anyways. So that was kind of a plus. The zip code was nice. And then it was a gated community, which I like, because everyone drives so slow down the streets.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and everyone's lawn looks so nice, and all the houses, you could tell it was a tract development because there were repeating floor plans, from the facades of the house, but there was so many different houses too that, it didn't jump out at you as being super ticky-tacky little neighborhood where all the houses look the same. And they were nice size. Long story short, I really liked the neighborhood, and I was like, wow. And so we pulled up to this house, we go in. It had a long front porch, which at first I wasn't sure about, and it had open steps, and so I wasn't really digging the curb appeal at first. But we went in, it had the big high ceilings that I liked. It was open. You walked into a living room, dining room, and then on the same kind of open area, you go around the corner and there's the kitchen and a family room, and then the master bedrooms upstairs, and another bedroom upstairs. And then you go downstairs, and it's not a basement, but it's basically the first floor. Like I said before, you walk upstairs to get into the house. So it's the main floor is actually on the second floor. And so then you go downstairs, and there's another family room and 2 bedrooms. And I was like, this is great. My girls could basically have their own floor down here and for me, I could put all the toys down here, so our living space isn't just being engulfed by stuffed animals and Barbies and all that fun stuff. And then it had a nice yard. Trying to think, my first impression though, I liked it a lot. It hit everything on our wish list. 3-car garage. It had really bad paint colors. Which for me, I can see right past that, but I was like, oh, this is why this house has maybe been on the market for a while.
Oh
It
yeah.
had
So, and Jen,
bright,
this is the one that's above your target price. It was expensive.
yes,
Okay.
it was 25,000 above. But the house really did not need that much work. The floors were good. The floor plan was great. We didn't need to like knock down any walls or anything. Only thing it really needed right off the bat was the front porch needed some work because the stairs were kind of dry rotted out, and they had open like the toe kick on the stairs was open, which to me has a very like beachy look, and it just didn't go. It made it look flimsy, where it's a big staircase that's kind of long, like 12 steps in the front, that needed to be like beefed up a little bit. So I was like, this definitely needs work, some money. And then we would need to paint the walls, and then just do other little cosmetic things like maybe switch out the light fixtures, which my husband can do that.
Mm-hmm.
He comes from a family of electricians. So if he can't handle it, his dad or brother can. So I wasn't really that worried about the little things that I wanted to change were just like lipstick on the house,
Mm-hmm.
And so I called Ben as I was leaving. I was like, oh my gosh, this house is in the best neighborhood. And I was like, when can you come see it? Can you come after work? And he was like, no, he's like, I can't tonight. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really like it. And he was like, let's put an offer in. I was like, no. And he was like, why? Just, you like it? Let's just put an offer in. Let's get it going. And I was like, seriously? Okay. And so I called our realtor, and I had, that first house that we went back and forth on and we ended up not getting. Well, Ben had the impression the reason we didn't get it probably was because we lowballed them too much. But I think we still offered a fair price because it needed so much work. So this time around, Ben was like, I'm like, how much should we put in? And because it was above our price range, but it really didn't need that much work.
Right.
And plus, then you have to think of all the closing costs is like going to be another, I think, $8,000 or something for closing costs. So, you have to factor that in. We were really, really stretching it. It took like every dime, but they were super motivated to sell because they already had closed on another house that they're moving to.
Oh, yeah. And
it had been on the market almost a month. So they were like highly motivated. Mind you, Ben had still not been inside of it.
He
yet,
hadn't been inside of it yet. Okay.
No, he'd seen pictures and he trusted me a lot, I guess. So we went back and forth a little bit. We ended up meeting right in the middle. They were very fair and we felt fair. We felt like the house was worth. We felt like we were getting a really excellent deal. And we felt really good about that. Like, it definitely stretched us. It's more than we thought we were going to spend, but it was worth it. And, we got everything that we wanted. We ended up going through the whole inspections and closing on the house like 30 days later. Ben never saw the house until we closed on it.
What?
Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah, it became like a joke because
Jen, this is the first time. This is wild.
I know. Yeah, he really trusts me. So we were closing on his birthday, November 30th, and so it became like kind of a joke, like, well, it'll be your birthday present, So that day when we closed and got the keys, he met us over here, and we had like a picnic on the floor, and
so you weren't nervous
at all?
It was
really awesome. I was nervous, actually. I was like, what if you don't like it? There were some, like, the only little things that, stuck out to me. It's like, you go downstairs when you're in the house to the girls where I wanted to put the girls' bedrooms. And I was like, are you sure you're okay with like how do you feel about having our children on a floor below us? Like, does that scare you? Think? Because some people, just worry like that's the ground floor and like, I don't know, what if they open the door in the middle of the night or something like that? I don't know, or they can let themselves in and out and he was like, no, that won't bother me. And then once we moved in, we ended up actually getting a security system installed that has sensors on the door. So whenever a door or a window, even if someone even puts pressure on the windows down here from the outside, it will it'll beep upstairs. I'm not
excellent.
as concerned about, someone breaking in because it's a very, very safe neighborhood, but I like that I can hear if a door is being opened downstairs, if my daughter opens the slider.
That's a super safe situation because it's a gated community to begin with, and then you have a good
Mhm.
alarm system. You're in great shape.
Yeah. Yeah. And so right off the bat when we moved in, we had it all painted, switched out the light fixtures, and was like good to go. So bought a
Whatever
couple
happened to
pieces of
that
furniture.
that first house that you put two offers in on? They wouldn't come, and you did that ever sell? Do you know?
I think that it did,
It'd be
and
interesting
I
to figure
think
what it
they.
sold for. If it sold for less than what you had
I'm so
offered.
glad. You know what? You get just a feeling like the spirit of the house, or like
Yeah,
the vibes that you get.
I
Like
am
that house.
totally
It,
into that. It's the feeling of
yeah,
a house.
it
It
had
could be the
like
feeling of the neighborhood, the feeling that you don't even know exactly what it is, but it's a feeling.
yeah. So that first house, I liked the floor plan a lot, and it had very cute curb appeal that didn't need much work, but it had weird vibes, like the upstairs. I don't
Aha.
know, like I
So this house, the house
even
you
though
ended up with, is a ton better vibe.
it has good vibes. Yeah, it has really nice vibes, and we love it. And but yeah, that first house, there was something about like I don't know, like the hallway was too narrow feeling.
Okay, it's
Then again, I
older.
mean, we offered it, we wanted it, but it's because it hit everything on our list. But it still was kind of like, I don't know. I'm kind of glad. I'm
Mm.
very glad that we didn't get it because it worked out for the best.
Oh
So
yeah, it sounds like you got
this,
a really awesome house there. That's so
well,
cool.
yeah, you'll have to come check it
Yeah,
out.
next time in Sacramento, check it out for sure. That's really good. I'm so glad that worked out so good. So the kids like it too?
Yeah, they love it. So they've got this beautiful playroom set up downstairs. We ended up putting flooring in down here too that I really like.
Good. Hey,
So I
that's really
did.
good, Jen. I really owe you a big favor. Oh,
No,
oh,
you don't. That's fine. I like talking about this stuff, and it was a good day because Ben has a day off. So yeah, but oh well, let me tell you about this one other thing we did to the house. So
please.
since we bought the house, one thing that is important to mention is when we did the home inspection, they did say that the wood and that front porch, which I told you I didn't love the curb appeal of the house at first. It just felt like
Right.
it needed some help. The garden beds were random, and the plant placement was random, and then the front steps looked rickety. And anyhow, so as part of the closing deal, the seller replaced the whole front porch steps for us
No,
and the back porch. Yeah, so we got new
that was a
deck
lot of money
decks.
there.
Yeah. So then after the wood had time to acclimate, we had it painted in April, and the trim on the house used to be green, and we had all the trim painted like a fresh white, and we had the porch railings painted white, the toe kicks white, and then like a dark stain on the front deck, and it's so cute now. And then I've been gardening like crazy in the front, so now we've got all this color, and it looks really nice. I like
That
it. I
sounds
can send you a
beautiful.
picture. I don't know if you put
Oh
pictures on
yeah,
your.
if you could take a picture with your phone and send it to me, I'd love a picture. So Jen, you got any just final tips for first-time home buyers, or they're in that beginning process where they're thinking about buying? Any tips?
Okay, I'll give you the tip that I have that was actually given to me by my friend who's a real estate agent in Santa Barbara is don't don't worry. Like if you find the house that you think you want and it doesn't pan out, there's always going to be, hold out until you find that one that really works for you, because we end up compromising quite a bit in the process, which is important. But and at the end of the day, you need to, you want to buy the house that really makes you happy. And so you don't want to compromise too much. So if you find some along the way that you think are it, but you're not sure, I would say just your house is out there. You just have to hold on, take your time, and, it will come.
Excellent,
That's
Jen.
my advice.
Excellent. I really appreciate your all your time on this. So I'll let you get back to your
Sure.
two cute as hell kids.
Thank you. It was great talking
Oh,
to you.
and thank Ben too for babysitting while so I could talk to you.